The shuttle hummed quietly as it descended toward the capital city of the Zetherian Empire. Captain Elias Kane peered through the viewport, watching the alien metropolis unfold beneath him. Towers of shimmering metal rose like crystalline spires, reflecting the light of three suns that bathed the world in a golden glow. Skyways intertwined in intricate patterns, carrying vehicles that moved as though guided by thought itself. Elias felt a mixture of awe and unease. He had visited many alien worlds before, but Zethera was different. The planet was alive with power, and he knew that every movement, every glance could carry political weight. The shuttle touched down gently on the landing platform of the royal palace. Elias stepped out, his uniform crisp, his boots echoing on the polished surface. He had been briefed thoroughly before this mission. The Zetherians were proud and ancient, their empire spanning dozens of star systems. Humans were considered fragile, short-lived creatures by their standards. Elias knew that his position here required more than diplomacy. It required courage and understanding beyond what he had ever faced. The palace itself was magnificent. Walls of translucent crystal shifted color depending on the angle of light, and intricate patterns moved across the surfaces, telling stories of past kings and queens. Statues of legendary warriors stood in silent vigilance along the halls, their eyes seemingly following him. Elias felt the weight of history pressing down on him. He had not come here as a conqueror or even as a simple diplomat. He had come as a representative of humanity, a species barely known outside its home planet yet full of potential. He was escorted through the grand halls by a young Zetherian aide. The being was tall and slender, with shimmering blue skin and eyes that glowed faintly with intelligence. Its movements were precise, almost too perfect, like a dancer performing an eternal routine. "Captain Kane," it said in a melodious voice, "you will be presented to Queen Zira shortly. Please follow protocol carefully. The court is sensitive to anomalies." Elias nodded, keeping his posture firm. Understood. The throne room was beyond anything he had imagined. It was vast, stretching hundreds of meters, with a high ceiling that arched like the inside of a seashell. The walls were adorned with holographic tapestries depicting wars, treaties, and victories. Light floated in the air, soft and warm, illuminating the figures that lined the sides of the chamber. Alien nobles stood in formation, their attire elaborate and alien to human eyes. Every detail seemed designed to convey power, wealth, and history. Elias felt every eye on him as he walked toward the center of the room. At the far end, seated upon a throne that seemed to hover slightly above the ground, was Queen Zira. Her presence was overwhelming. Her skin shimmered with an opalescent glow, and her eyes, multifaceted like a gem, reflected the room in fragments. She radiated authority and intelligence, and yet there was something unreadable in her expression. Elias had faced intimidating leaders before, but there was something about Zira that made him acutely aware of his own limitations. He bowed deeply, following the gestures he had been taught. The court remained silent, the only sound the faint hum of the palace. Elias could feel the weight of centuries of tradition pressing down on him. He straightened, careful to maintain respect without seeming weak. Then, from the corner of the room, a small figure darted forward. Elias blinked in surprise. The child was unlike any alien he had seen before. Its features were delicate, a blend of human and Zetherian traits. Its eyes were wide and curious, and its skin carried a soft, almost human warmth, though tinged with the shimmer of its species. The child stopped in front of him and, without hesitation, reached out. "Father," the child said clearly, without fear or doubt. The word hung in the air. The court froze. Aliens who had been whispering amongst themselves fell silent. Even Queen Zira's eyes widened, her posture stiffening for the first time in Elias's presence. Time seemed to slow. Elias's heart raced. He had not expected this. He had come prepared for diplomacy, for negotiations, for the challenge of alien politics, but not for a child to call him father in front of the entire royal court. He knelt instinctively, lowering himself to the child's level. I am honored," he said softly, unsure what else to say. The child's small hand reached for his, and Elias felt a strange warmth, a connection that transcended species. It was not just the innocence of a child. There was a recognition, an acknowledgement of something he had done long ago, something he barely remembered himself. Whispers erupted quietly around the room. Nobles exchanged glances, their voices low but tense. Who is this human to claim the child? One muttered. Impossible. He cannot be the father. Another hissed. The child must be mistaken, or this is a trick. Elias straightened slowly, facing the murmuring crowd. He understood their skepticism. Humans were considered weak, short-lived, and often irrelevant in the grand schemes of the Zitherian Empire. Yet here was a child, an heir to the royal line, claiming him as father. He had no immediate answers, only instinct and truth. Queen Zira rose from her throne, her movement graceful yet commanding. She approached, her eyes never leaving Elias. "Explain," she said, her voice steady but layered with curiosity and caution. "Why does my child call you father?" Elias met her gaze directly. He took a deep breath and began. "Your Majesty, I once undertook a mission to the outer colonies of your empire. During that mission there was a crisis, an incident that threatened the life of your unborn child. I acted to prevent it, ensuring the child's survival. I did so without thought of reward or recognition." The court fell silent again, this time in tense anticipation. Elias could see the doubt in many eyes, the disbelief that a human could influence the life of a Zitherian heir. But there were others, subtle nods among the advisors who had been present during the historical event Elias described. Though none had openly spoken of it, Queen Zira remained unmoved in expression, yet her eyes softened ever so slightly as she regarded the child. The child clung to Elias's hand, looking back at the queen with innocent confidence. It was a bond that could not be fabricated. Elias continued. "The child recognizes me because of that moment. It is a memory, though your court may not understand it. I am not here to claim anything, except to protect the child as I have done before." Another wave of murmurs rippled through the court. Some nobles bristled, feeling threatened by the idea that a human, a creature they considered fragile, had such influence over the royal heir. Others seemed thoughtful, considering the possibility that the human had indeed played a critical role. Queen Zira finally spoke. "Captain Kane," she said, her voice calm yet weighted with authority. "The claim of this child cannot be ignored lightly. You admit to a past intervention, yet your presence here disrupts tradition and expectation. How do you propose to proceed?" Elias bowed again, this time with resolve. "With respect, Your Majesty, I do not seek to disrupt anything. My only concern is the safety and well-being of the child. I am willing to follow any protocols you deem necessary to prove that my role is honorable and true." The queen regarded him silently, her multifaceted eyes reflecting his image from different angles. The tension in the room was palpable. Nobles whispered in quiet tones, some clearly skeptical, others seemingly impressed by the human's calm honesty. The child tugged at Elias's hand as if sensing the gravity of the situation. After a long pause, Queen Zira nodded slightly. "Very well," she said. "You will remain under my observation. The court will assess your actions and the child's claim will be considered. This will not be an easy path, Captain Kane, but it is necessary to ensure the integrity of our lineage." Elias felt a mixture of relief and apprehension. He had entered the court expecting formalities and negotiations, but he had not anticipated this intimate, delicate, and dangerous test of character. The weight of centuries of tradition pressed on him, yet he also sensed the importance of his role. He was no longer just a visitor. He was now intricately connected to the royal family, and by extension to the fate of the Zitherian Empire itself. The child let out a small, happy laugh, holding Elias's hand tightly. "Father," it repeated as though to reaffirm the truth in the midst of uncertainty. Elias smiled gently, realizing that his responsibility was far greater than he had imagined. He had to navigate the complexities of an alien court, defend his integrity, and ensure the safety of a child who represented not just hope, but the fragile bridge between two civilizations. As the court slowly dispersed, Elias was led to a private chamber where he would reside while under observation. The chamber overlooked the city, and he could see ships and skyways moving with purpose. The scale of the empire was overwhelming, yet there was a strange beauty in its order. Elias knew that the coming days would test him in ways he had never faced. Politics, tradition, and alien suspicion would all challenge him, yet there was a new bond now, undeniable and unbreakable. The bond between a human and a child who called him father. It was a bond that transcended species, tradition, and expectation. That night, as Elias looked out over the glowing city, the child asleep beside him, he realized the truth of his situation. He was no longer a mere observer of history. He was part of it, tied to the destiny of an empire and the life of a remarkable child. Humanity often. The next morning the palace was alive with activity. Servants moved quickly and silently. Attendants polished surfaces that gleamed like mirrors, and nobles gathered in quiet clusters, whispering behind their hands. Elias Cain stood by the window of his chamber, watching the sun rise over the sprawling city. The glow bathed the towers in gold and violet hues, but Elias could not allow himself to admire it. His mind was focused entirely on what awaited him, the court's assessment of his claim as the child's protector, and the challenges that would come from those who would never accept a human as part of their royal lineage. The child woke first, rubbing sleep from its wide, curious eyes. It crawled into Elias's lap, giggling softly. "Father," it said again, as though confirming the bond between them. Elias smiled and held the small hand gently. "Yes, my child," he said softly. "I will always protect you." The child clapped happily, oblivious to the storm of politics brewing beyond their private room. A soft knock at the door interrupted the moment. A Zetherian aide stepped inside, bowing deeply. "Captain Cain, the Queen requests your presence in the council chamber. The court wishes to discuss the matter of your claim to the child's trust." Elias nodded, feeling a mixture of apprehension and resolve. He stood, adjusting his uniform and straightening his posture. The child waved at him, but Elias motioned for it to stay. "I will return soon," he whispered before following the aide. The council chamber was vast, lined with columns that pulsed faintly with light. The nobles were already present, their eyes sharp, their expressions a mixture of curiosity, suspicion, and pride. Queen Zira sat at the head of the chamber, regal and composed. Her eyes, multifaceted and penetrating, studied Elias as he entered. He approached carefully, bowing slightly as a sign of respect. "Captain Cain," the Queen began, her voice calm but carrying weight. "Your presence has caused considerable discussion among my advisors in the court. While your actions in the outer colonies are noted, your connection to my child raises questions of lineage, loyalty, and influence. We must determine whether your claim is truthful and whether your presence here benefits the Empire or threatens it." Elias straightened, meeting her gaze. "Your Majesty, I do not seek power or position. My only concern is the safety and well-being of your child. I acted once to preserve the child's life, and I am prepared to act again if necessary, to protect the child from harm. My loyalty is to you and the Empire, not to myself." A ripple of murmurs went through the court. Some nobles whispered in disbelief. "A human claims loyalty without reward. How strange," one said. Others exchanged cautious nods, recognizing the truth in Elias's calm, measured tone. Queen Zira nodded slightly, acknowledging the silence. "Very well," she said. "Captain Cain, we will test your claim. You will accompany the child and me on a series of tasks and trials. These are not physical challenges alone, but tests of judgment, courage, and integrity. The court will observe, and your actions will determine whether you are worthy of trust." Elias inclined his head. "I accept, Your Majesty." The first trial was one of judgment. The court presented a scenario involving a complex dispute between two noble houses, one of which claimed an ancient relic belonging to the Empire. The nobles expected Elias to fail, assuming a human could not understand the intricacies of Zetherian law and custom. Yet Elias listened carefully, asking questions, analyzing the facts, and seeking a solution that honored tradition while ensuring fairness. After a tense discussion, he proposed a compromise that satisfied both sides. The court was stunned. His decision demonstrated not only intelligence but empathy and diplomacy, qualities the Zetherians valued highly. The second trial tested his courage. The Queen led him to a distant training ground where Zetherian warriors practiced combat. A demonstration was staged in which Elias faced a formidable opponent, an elite warrior skilled in both strength and technique. The human was smaller, weaker by Zetherian standards, yet he relied on his wits, agility, and keen observation. He anticipated the opponent's movements, dodged attacks, and used the environment to his advantage. Though he did not overpower the warrior, he neutralized the threat without injury, earning the respect of the observing nobles. Each trial after that challenged him in new ways. Negotiation with alien merchants, solving puzzles that involved logic and intuition, and demonstrating patience while tending to delicate, exotic flora and fauna that required precise care. Elias excelled in every challenge, not because he sought glory, but because he approached each situation with thoughtfulness, honesty, and determination. All the while, the child remained by his side, watching and interacting with him freely. The bond between them grew stronger with every passing day, visible to all who observed. Even the most skeptical nobles could not ignore it. The child's recognition of Elias was genuine, and the human's protective, patient, and loving behavior proved that their connection was real. During one private moment, the queen approached Elias. "Captain Kane," she said quietly, "you have performed admirably, but you must understand that not all in my court will accept a human in such a position. Some will attempt to undermine you, spread rumors, or manipulate situations against you. You must be vigilant." Elias nodded. "I understand, Your Majesty. I have faced skepticism before, and I am prepared to face it here. My priority is the child's safety and well-being. Nothing else matters more." The queen studied him for a long moment. "You remind me of humanity's strength," she said softly, almost as if speaking to herself. "It is not physical nor easily measured. It is courage, integrity, and the ability to act when others hesitate. Perhaps this is why the child recognizes you. Perhaps this is why you were always meant to be part of their life." Word of Elias's trial spread quickly throughout the empire. Nobles who had doubted him began to see him in a new light. The child's joyful interactions with him, his calm and unwavering courage, and his ability to navigate complex social and political challenges impressed even the most traditional observers. Slowly, the court began to shift from skepticism to cautious acceptance. One afternoon, the queen called for a grand assembly. The chamber was filled with nobles, advisors, and attendants, all waiting for her judgment. Elias stood beside the child, who held his hand confidently, smiling up at him. The queen's voice rang out clear and commanding. "Members of the court," she said, "we have witnessed the actions of Captain Elias Kane over the past days. His loyalty, courage, and wisdom have been proven beyond doubt. The child recognizes him as a protector, and I too recognize his integrity. Let it be known that Captain Kane is not only a friend of the Empire but also a guardian of the child, bound by duty and trust." A hush fell over the assembly. For a long moment no one spoke. Then one by one nobles began to bow, acknowledging Elias's new status. Some whispered words of respect. Others expressed relief that the matter had been resolved peacefully. Even those who had been most skeptical could not deny the truth they had witnessed. The child looked up at Elias and said softly, "Father." The word echoed in the chamber, carrying more weight than any declaration of rank or title. The court remained silent for a moment, then gradually erupted into polite applause and murmurs of approval. Queen Zira stepped forward, placing a hand on the child's shoulder. "Captain Kane," she said, her voice strong and clear, "you have proven yourself not only to me but to the entire empire. The bond between you and the child is real, and it is recognized. From this day forward, you are honored as the protector of my heir, and your actions shall be remembered in the annals of our history." Elias felt a mixture of relief, pride, and humility. He had not sought recognition or power, yet here he was, acknowledged by an alien queen and her court, not for strength or conquest, but for character and courage. The child clung to him, and in that moment, he realized the true meaning of family, not bound by blood alone, but by trust, care, and shared experiences. In the days that followed, Elias continued to serve the empire, guiding and protecting the child, building relationships with the nobles, and helping the queen navigate both domestic and interstellar challenges. The court, once wary and suspicious, now respected him. He had earned a place not through force but through humanity's unique qualities: resilience, compassion, and integrity. One evening, as the sun set and the city glowed in soft light, Elias walked through the palace gardens with the child laughing beside him. Queen Zira joined them, walking silently for a time before speaking. "Captain Kane," she said, "you have taught us something valuable. Humanity is underestimated, yes, but its courage and heart can change the course of events, even in a civilization older and wiser than your own. I am grateful that you are part of our lives." Elias smiled, looking down at the child who had once uttered that single word that changed everything. "I am honored, Your Majesty, and I will always protect them, no matter what challenges come." The queen nodded. "Then let the court remember this day. not as the day a human claimed a child, but as the day the strength of character proved stronger than prejudice, and the future of our empire gained a true ally. As they walked through the gardens, Elias felt a deep sense of peace. He had entered the Zithirian Empire uncertain and wary, but he now understood that true strength did